Welcome back, I'm Ryan from Blue Gaming, and today I'm taking a look at yet another Warhammer 40k game. Most of them have been bad, hopefully this one's good. Today I'm taking a look at Space Hulk Tactics. Now, before we get into this, I do have to say I was given a key to review this, but as this has happened many times before, you'll see that it doesn't really affect my opinion on the game. So let's get right into it. Now, I love pretty much everything about Warhammer 40k. I love the worlds, the characters, the lore, everything about it. I love the actual physical game. I've loved many of the digital games that have been good. But I've actually never played the Space Hulk tabletop game, which is kind of surprising because it combines my two favorite things in Warhammer 40k. It combines Space Marine Terminators and it combines Gene Stealers. And those two things are like my absolute favorite of their respective groups. In fact, I love Terminators so much that my physical army that I used to have way back in high school was a Grey Knight Terminator army. And so I just absolutely love Terminators and everything about them in Warhammer 40k, but I've never played the Space Hulk board game, but I kind of feel like I have after playing this game, because this is actually a really good representation of it put into a video game. But really, that aspect of it, being so faithful to the board game, is really going to put off quite a lot of people. You have to remember, Space Hulk, the board game, came out in 1989. And yeah, this is just an updated version of that. So you have to realize all the stuff that comes in with it being a board game. There's a lot of RNG around the place. And that is really something that you will come across every single round. And the RNG is even compounded because everything in this game dies in one hit. Doesn't matter if it's a Terminator or a Gene Stealer, it will die in one hit. And you have to realize that each version or each side actually has its kind of pluses and minuses. So like the Terminators, they're slow, but they have range. The Gene Stealers are fast, and they have a lot more of them, but they're melee only. And so just a lot of different stuff like that has a really good give and take with it, and you can play both the Gene Stealers and the Terminators in two separate campaigns and in multiplayer. And so you can really flesh out the entirety of the board game. But I know that people aren't really going to like just how much tactics is actually involved, because you have to keep track of your character's ability points. Each character gets 4 ability points if you're playing as the Terminators, and you have to use them effectively or you are going to die because of that one-hit kill most of the time. There are still things like saving rolls, though, so it's not like, oh, Gene Stealer gets right next to me and my Terminator instantly dies. There is still a dice roll, and multiple different outcomes can happen with variations of either the Terminator living and dying and the Gene Stealer living or dying. So you can have any combination of those 4 outcomes. And talking a little bit more about those rolls, I actually like that this game shows off exactly what you rolled, because I know many of these digital board games, as they like to call them, many of them are just rolling the dice in the background, and you don't really get to see what's going on with that stuff. But in this one, you can actually check and see exactly what you rolled and what your roll would have to be to succeed. And when the game talks about giving you a buff, or when you change your weapon to something different, it will actually give it to you in terms of those dice rolls. So it's just a little bit more of that added flair that I like to see when I'm playing a digital board game. But now that we've gotten the board game aspect out of the way, And if you're still fine with playing a digital board game, let's get to the one thing that I think completely wrecks this game right now. It's the one major problem that I have with it, and that is the enemy AI. So I'm going to be talking about this problem from the perspective of playing the Terminator campaign, because that is really where this problem is most apparent. The easiest way to see this is with the Overwatch mechanic. Now, if you've played any other 40k game, then you'll probably know what Overwatch is. It's in other, just like tactical games as well, but essentially you set your character into an Overwatch mode, and anything that comes within its view, it will shoot at during Overwatch. And essentially, gene stealers just won't go into your line of fire when you have Overwatch on. Like, they could be bottlenecked into a single hallway, or different sets of hallways, and you could set up your Terminator so that every way to get to you is covered by Overwatch, and they just won't do anything. They will just sit there and wait for you to mess up. And it is completely idiotic because it's just rounds of you sitting there refreshing the Overwatch on your characters waiting for the objective to finish. And that gets extremely boring, and I've actually finished several missions that way. There have also been times when I have set up Terminators to Overwatch specific entry points, and I've trapped large groups of gene stealers in specific parts of the map and just let the rest of my unit go and complete the objective while these other characters just sit there and just pretty much corral the gene stealers and make them completely useless. There's also a flip side to that. In some missions, it feels as though the gene stealers just cannot lose. I have seen them walk through 5 layers of Overwatch and just completely not get hit by any single shot. In many of the missions, you will start out, you'll place where you want your characters to start, and you will instantly be just surrounded and hoarded by gene stealers. And I know that that's kind of what should happen, but with the added ability of them being able to dodge a whole bunch of bullets, you might only be able to take out 1 or 2 gene stealers in a single round per unit, and you might have to take out much more than that, or you are going to start losing Terminators. And so you just have this really weird thing where the AI is either brain dead or extremely deadly, and there's no in between. And a section of the campaign that I was stuck on for a very long time actually involved missions where it was go to a place, you have to go to objectives on either side of the map, but what I kept finding myself in is I would get stuck in a room with my group of Terminators, and we essentially could not leave that room ever because we just kept taking out gene stealers and they kept endlessly spawning more of them. So I was just stuck in a room. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't push out because if I pushed out, I wouldn't have enough ability points left over to Overwatch. And if I didn't Overwatch, then my characters would get overrun by gene stealers and just completely demolished. So they really need to fix the AI in this. And thankfully, the developers have said that they are working on fixing the AI, but I can't really talk about what they're going to do and have that affect this review because they haven't done it yet. So I have to review what they have right now. And before we end this off, there's one final thing that I really need to talk about because I just find this extremely stupid. So, Space Hulk Tactics, if you don't know, is just an updated re-release of the Space Hulk game that came out in 2013. In 2013, they released Space Hulk, which was exactly this game, and then for the Tactics re-release, they just made it look better and smoothed out some of the animations and made some minor changes and implemented a first-person mode that you get to watch through the view of the Terminators. But besides that, that's pretty much it. Everything else is exactly the same. Here's where the problem comes in. Space Hulk, which released in 2013, is still $25. Space Hulk Tactics is $40. Now, I understand that one's newer and one's older and all those different things that you could say for why the game should be more than the previous one, but $40, even if this game wasn't a re-release, if Space Hulk 2013 did not exist at all, I would still think that $40 or your regional equivalent is still just a little bit too much for this. Like, it is still a digital board game, and there's still only so much content. There's not actually as much content as I would want, and there's not enough, like, unique features about each of the different places that you go to really change things up all that much. So, yeah, that $40 price tag's really kind of a negative for this. And with that covered, let's go into whether or not I think it's worth it to get. So, overall, I think this is a very, very good representation of the Space Hulk board game. And I would say if you have and enjoy the Space Hulk board game, then I think that this is worth picking up if you think that you would want something like that. The multiplayer does include a create your own map, and so if you have several friends that want to all get this, you can kind of make your maps and play against each other and have all that fun. And I think that if you're going to do something like that, this is absolutely worth getting because it's just the best representation of that. If you are not one of those people, though, I think that the problems with the AI and the current price point are just two really big problems that stop me from recommending this game right away. I think to get this game, one of two things need to happen. Either fix the AI, and if you fix the AI, then I think that the game is worth getting at pretty much any price point up to its starting price of $40. Or they could lower the game price, and if it goes on a sale, then you might want to pick this up just to try it out, because even with the AI problems, it is still really enjoyable as a more slow-paced tactical game and somewhat of a digital board game. So if one of those two things happen, then I recommend picking it up, but at its current pace, with the high price point and the AI problems that are going to plague you throughout both campaigns, really, I think that this is going to be a pass for now. But overall, I do think that this is definitely not one of the terrible 40k games, and I really think that these developers can pull this around. It's not like there's some no-name developer. This is Cyanide Studios and Focus Home Interactive, and I really think that they're going to be able to fix the AI problems. It's just a matter of time. So whenever they get that fixed, I highly recommend picking up Space Hulk Tactics. And that's really all I got to say about it for now. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them below in the comments. And as always, I'm Ryan from Bluewood Gaming, and I'll see you guys in the next one.